All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the World Arena podcast, aka the Wopcast. Today, Firas and I are joined by the leader of the D-Gens, the head of the snake, Spires.
I didn't realize I was getting that kind of intro.
Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Good to be back.
Yeah, so, no, I mean, you've just become a meme on Twitch, that's all. It's not... it's not actually you. Like it's just this meta's just got people on edge. But
yeah, for sure, it's all good.
But yeah, can I be filled in on this? Like, why Spires is actually the leader of the D-Gens? What am I missing here?
Oh, I can tell you. It's because all the Twitch streamers are playing the same CC comp, and I have counters for that.
Oh
yeah. Well, it's just the first pick. Water Holly, Molly, whatever stuff. And then it's like, what made you the meme though is that you defended yourself for the streamer getting tilted. But like your comp is meant to tilt the person, so you can't really defend yourself.
It is tilting to play against, but I mean that's kind of what happens when you play CC. To be fair, I don't think Manon's the best first pick. I picked it for a while just like kind of testing it out. I have a different opinion now, and I haven't been first picking here the last few days, but yeah.
That's what I ended up doing too. So I first picked Manon for like how many days? I don't know. Maybe Ziggy remembers because I definitely can't remember. I did it for a certain amount of days, and I would pivot into Tianline Adder with it. I got a stupid amount of wins with it. That made no sense. But when the people who beat me with it, I'm like, okay, it makes a lot of sense. It's actually pretty easy to deal with in comparison to all the other DJs.
It's just it's just randomness. I mean, I don't think she's particular. She's strong. Like her win rate's pretty decent for a turn 2 unit. Like nothing crazy, nothing. It was like what, like 51-ish%, a little under.
It's like 50%, which is still pretty good for a unit that's like people are first picking.
Yeah.
But I think she's getting figured out, and that's why I stopped first picking her, because I started to realize like certain games, like if I fell into like certain kind of like Bulwark drafts, I just saw like I had no win condition towards the end of the draft, and I was like, I can't be picking her anymore.
Yeah, I just hate the style of those units. Like they're frustrating to fight. They're frustrating to use. Like if you go up against somebody and you're like, okay, he first picked my whatever. Let's say you're using Chung Pung or something. I use a pretty off-meta team, so I don't usually get my units stolen. But like on the occasion that does happen, I'll be like, okay, well last time I picked this is what crushed me, so I'll try it. And then I just get my ass kicked, and it's like, fuck, man. Like, it's so frustrating. It's like,
there's no winning.
It's just because it's pure random. Like, she's going, like, just by the numbers, she's going to have games where she doesn't revenge on anything crucial, she doesn't block anything crucial, and she just gets her ass handed to her. And then she's going to have games where she blocks the reckless assault, or she, like, does just wild shit, right? So I just hate units like that. If the only answer to like nerfing CC is to buff units like that, then I don't know, like shut the servers down. Like just nerf just nerf CC for the love of God.
I understand what you're talking about with that, but so like my argument, and to what, like get back to like what I was saying, is why sometimes it is consistent even though it's a 15% check. Like my argument that like I'm not saying it's the best mechanic, and I'm not saying it's the best way to like nerf CC, but it is a way, and I think it's consistent in a way like where you don't need it to, like if you're drafting it in a position where you don't need it to block the reckless, if it blocks anything, or like if it blocks a few things when someone's multi-hitting you with like more chunk bong, etc., I think that's where it gets consistent in the fact that it wins. Like I think it's a good pick into more, because most people don't run a will more, and you pretty much just shut more down after turn 1.
Yeah, I can agree with that, Jim. Like that, even when I take my Panda, and I've seen it, she just does nothing at all. In a full 3 hits, 4 units, she won't activate parry once. But when in those odds, she really should be doing at least 1 revenge in that situation, and that's where she's consistent. this exact same scenario is more, or any of the triple hitters, triple AoE hitters, we call them. So
yeah, but like in theory, she shouldn't. Like I would assume your Tian Lang's. I mean, I've seen your Tian Lang. It's on will, right? It's not on revenge.
Yeah.
So it's like doesn't really matter even if she does parry you, right? Because she doesn't have her defense buff up yet, so the hit's not that hard, and you're on will, so she can't stun. So it's like it's kind of a whatever situation. But I just hate the reason why I have such like an aversion to these units though is because I play CC, but I don't use the units that these units are being buffed to like stop. So they just extra fuck me because I'm using like weaker units, right? Just because I like to have fun and try different stuff or whatever. So it's like, okay, so instead of just nerfing Chung Peng, who I don't even use, you instead buff a counter to him, who he's still the best wind unit. So now she just, or not her specifically, but the Josephines and the whatever. Now they just extra counter whatever it is that I was using, like just by like proxy. It's just like I just take a stray bullet to my comp because it's just anti CC stuff, and it's like just nerf the ones that are oppressive. Like what is so hard about that?
They clearly don't have an issue nerfing overpowered units, even if they were freshly out anyway. So I don't know why they wouldn't revisit the old ones. Like we already called it anyway. So does Oliver. It's not like Oliver fell out of meta, but Chung Peng is clearly the next best thing. It's not like the next best thing, and he's like 3 steps below him. He's like pretty much on par with the power of Oliver. He's higher now.
I think he's better than Oliver. I mean, Oliver's 33 is irreplaceable by like anything, but CP is a better unit.
Chung Peng is a tough one for me to like say deserves a nerf, because if you look at numbers alone, like I don't know, I don't think he really needs one, but it's just the mere fact of like sometimes the 25% like he procs and you just lose. So it's I don't know, it's kind of a weird
right now. You're 100% right. Like we're right now, you can't nerf him because he early draft him, you lose. If I last pick a Chung Peng, which I have been doing, it's like devastating to my opponent because like they have to ban the Chung Peng if I take a last pick because they didn't account. Oh, let me just take my Antares Douglas, Water Holly, blah blah blah. The list for Chung Peng counters is pretty long. That doesn't mean that he's not strong, but it's if I take him last, then he wasn't accounted for. Like, damn, this is a devastating unit for me to let through. Or if I take him early and it's easily punishable. So, like, now, would we say nerf him? No.
I still would.
In combo with all the other units, you can't leave him anymore with all the other turn 2 crap they buff.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the tough part. But, like, the same way that I complain that, like, Douglas basically makes you have to shelf, like, I don't know, 60 to 70% of the units that you could maybe otherwise use. You just can't because a Douglas last pick will beat you every time. I think turn 2 players are in that same situation where there's probably a whole bunch of units that you just have to shelf because Chung Peng just eats them alive. So it's like you have to, like, yes, the meta then adjusts and you ditch all those units and you whatever, and now you've got these units that counter or do this or do that. The only reason that they're forced into those units is because Chung Peng is never going to let them move. Otherwise, it's not going to be a Chow. You can't pick a Chow. He's never going to move, right? Like you've got to have something that counters or gains bar back after the CP pushes it away. So it's like, in that sense, I would still nerf him, but I would also nerf the Douglas and the whatever who do the same thing in reverse, where it's like...
See, I don't think that's the same thing. I think Douglas, like, I feel like in a draft where you don't have the last pick, you should always be able to ban the last pick. And Douglas, they feel like Douglas is pretty healthy for the game just because he provides that really good counter.
No.
I shaking your head, but hear me out. I think that there should be forced ban last picks. There should be picks that are just so good that you put down and it's the right situation for the unit that you have to ban it. And I don't think that that's the way with Chung Peng. I mean, in certain situations, sure, like every unit can be a force ban.
No, that's not the force ban part. Is not the argument I'm making. It's before you even get into a draft, my box has nothing in it that's going to lose to a Douglas because I don't want to lose to a Douglas. But in order to in order to get to that point, 50, 60, 70 units got to just go in storage and never come out, because at any time if you draft them, you're exposing yourself to just, because Douglas isn't just going to beat you, he's going to beat you with a 100% success rate.
Yeah,
like certain drafts. If you like, to me, that's bullshit. Like in a game filled with RNG, to have a pick that can literally just win automatically versus the right things is just ridiculous, because then all that really does is make people put those things away and never pick them. Because it doesn't even have the intended effect of getting into games and beating people, because I just don't draft the stuff that's going to lose to it. Like it's just.
Then for me, it's the opposite, where I keep drafting what would lose to a Douglas. No, it's not like I'm debating or anything. My whole team is HP based. Literally 50% of my box is HP units.
Yeah,
and I'm just punished for not having attack-based units in my draft. Not like you can draft them more comfortably right now anyway. But if I were to, he would lose to the Douglas anyway. But I'm not trying to make some fucking discussion. Like I have a plus 1800 more. He would still lose to the Douglas. Is that my problem?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm a.
When my Despair More is built, it's plus 2100, and I've lost to several Douglases.
Okay, well, that's the kind of point I'm getting at.
The Douglas gets one turn, they fling their S1, hope it lands the attack break, and then if it does, good luck.
The thing I really want to talk about is that, like, the idea of always banning last pick is very.
It's good on paper, but like, when your opponent first picked on Yuki and that thing has like a 57% win rate, can't always ban last pick.
I don't think you always need to ban last pick. I think you just need to be open to it. Like obviously, like there's certain scenarios where last pick is a speed lead or something, and then you can ban something else because now they have a speed lead or something like that. But like I think you should always still be open to banning last pick. That was all I was saying.
You're right.
And I'm fine with that. I don't even care about Douglas in the draft. It makes no difference to me. For me, it's when I'm theory crafting teams like I like to do. It's the literal only reason why I play this game. The amount of units that you just have to cross off the list because Douglas exists, and you know you're not going to be able to get like 1900 attack on your Clara or whatever, like whatever it is, then you just cross them off the list because you just can't have that losing condition over your head. And I think Chung Peng does that same thing to turn 2 teams, where it's like, well, I want to use Tyrannus. Everything about his kit looks great, but I can't just pick Tyrannus. Like, right. Well, that's what made me think of it. Is like, it's like, yeah, I want to use him. Everything looks great, but I'm just gonna get reset, def broken, and I'm never gonna move, and I will die before I ever move, and I won't even revive because I'm reset. So it's like,
same with any of the revivers that are not Nana in general. But like, I know I do agree with that statement too. That's why Oliver for me.
I understand where you're coming from, Zig. Like, it does make a lot of units not viable, but I mean that's just kind of how the meta goes, you know. Like 2 years ago, Tyrannus was the most overpowered unit in the game.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know exactly 2 years ago, but I mean that's just kind of how the meta goes. Like sometimes
it was actually 3 years ago, because it was 2020. I remember, because I loved that comp. Yeah, but.
Yeah, I was like, I can't remember how long ago, but I remember a long time ago. I felt like Tyrannus just had so much in his kit compared to
he was like
units.
an unstoppable force.
But I mean, that's just kind of how the meta is, and that's the way I look at it. Is like, I mean, if you can't play certain units, that's just the meta. You just gotta adapt and play something else. And I get what you're saying though. Like, it's frustrating because you can't. That's like you want.
That's literally always going to be the case. But like, it's tougher when it's units like Douglas, where it's like, everyone can have a Douglas built that can do exactly what it needs to do in beating my 5 units, right? So it's like, it's even like back then, like you could, like when Diana was super, super strong, right? And just like fucking torturing everybody, you could still build your team in a way where it's like, I have outs, like I can kill this Diana, even though my team is in theory weak to Diana or Diana food or whatever.
You're just keeps giving her the opportunity to
right, but like that doesn't exist anymore. Like, if your team loses to Douglas, then he just it just loses to Douglas. That's just what it is. He's just going to kill all 4 units by himself as the last man standing, and then that's going to be that. Like, it's just tough. And I think he cancels out a larger, like, quantity of units than most counterpicks do. Like, Juno cancels out a lot of units, but I think even Douglas cancels out more than Juno does. It's probably close, but
I can agree with that. He does cancel out a lot of stuff.
And like win or lose, like, doesn't really matter to me. Like, I'm just not going to pick the units that lose to him, and I'm never going to have that problem. But it still bothers me that I can't build a team that, has units I want to use. Like,
and like even though, for example, like the example Tyrannus how we had, it was like if it was 3 years ago. But I feel like this cooldown meta that we've been having ever since Chung Peng was freaking conceived, which was
right.
It's just a cooldown meta. The amount of
for sure.
Right, like this kind of meta has been like, now I feel like it's finally out of stall. That's why I feel like I'm thriving again.
I know that's why I've been enjoying this as well. Like I feel like it's not as much, but just based around a few units.
Mm-hmm. And this feels like the more diverse meta to me, even though there's still obviously a couple of frustrations, but that's how it kind of should be. And even I still can't even say what's the meta. Can we now? How many weeks are we in ever since that last patch? 3 weeks in? 4 weeks in?
I want to say like 3 weeks.
About 3 weeks. Can we say there's even a meta right now?
Yeah, I mean it's Oliver speed comps and Holy Moly, right? I mean,
I don't know. I still feel like I fight everything, like all under the sun. Like
I mean, I feel also like I fight some weird random stuff lately.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's great. I'm actually having fun with it, right? Because it's like I'm fighting a bunch of. My comp is not changing because I'm still winning with it. I might have to change it sooner or later, but as long as I'm winning right now, I'm maintaining top 100 for some reason. Well, we know why, but I'm still maintaining top 100. I'm having fun. I'm not like saying this. I'm still losing turn 1 comps though. There are some turn 1 comps that are actually screwing me over. Even though I have
the dark Onimuji.
Yeah, Onimushi and Zabala is actually really messing with me more so than I thought it would.
No, I mean, but even like if you just look at the pick rates, like this is probably the most centralized meta there's ever been. There's like 10 units. At least the last time I checked, there was like 10 units over 20% pick rate.
Yeah,
like that's ridiculous. Like
really
that is
good.
There's only 10 units picked in every match. That's super centralized around those 10 being the powerhouse. Like, whereas in previous metas, if you have like 2 or 3 that are just way too overpowered and they're just like super high pick rates, but then there's fucking 300 of them that are 15% or lower, like that's way more open to diversity than a meta that has 10 units over 20% pick rate.
Well, compared to the season before it, though.
I mean, I'm not arguing last season was great. I'm just saying this is the most centralized it's ever been.
Well, what would it take to get out of being so centralized as you want to put it?
I mean, they would have to.
Do you mean by centralized like there's not variety? Like you're trying to say like there's
correct.
Like 10 units?
If 10 units have over a 20% pick rate, then that would be the most central. There's literally only 10 units picked in a match. That would be the most centralized meta we've ever had.
Yeah, but it's not saying all 10 units are being picked. I mean, it's just, if a unit has 20% pick rate, right, that's just one in every 5 matches, right?
Right. And if there's 10 units that are in 1 in every 5 matches, as opposed to previous metas where maybe there's 2 that are in 60 or 70% of the matches, but then nothing else cracks 15, then that means there's hundreds of units that are being used in these matches. Because 10 units are still getting picked in every single match. But if only 2 of them are above 15%, then that means shitloads of different units are getting picked in those other 8 slots in every match that are happening.
No, that just means like when 2 units are like 70%, that just means they're getting spammed really hard. I mean, 20%, like this is normal. I have a lot of units that are around 20%.
No, it's not.
What?
It's just I don't.
Even then, I feel like
say it is.
This kind of discussion for only 3 weeks, because we're still a whole month away from the end of the season, right? And I still feel like there's a little bit of chaos going on with people's drafting and whatever they're experimenting with.
Yeah, so last season there was 3 units.
I'm not referring to last season.
No, I'm just telling you. Last season there's 3 units or 4 units basically above 40%.
Yeah, last season sucked.
Yeah, the only difference it makes, like if I go to this season, is the percentages are just more spread out. That's all it is.
But I know, but I'm not defending last season. I'm talking about like 2 years ago, like before the meta started getting more centralized with like powerhouse picks. Like, yeah, we had Hathor or whatever, and she was just the best. And for years, it's like, can you guys just fucking nerf Hathor and we can have a normal game? And they just wouldn't do it. And then, I mean, Mo Long had his moments too or whatever. But outside of those like powerhouses in each of those metas, everything that followed them was like a 10 to 15% pick rate at best. But that means there's still 10 units being picked in every match. So if none of those units are cracking 15, that means hundreds of units are getting picked within the 10 to 15% of matches. That's massive variety. If you're telling me 10 units are getting picked in every match still, but 10 of them have 20% or higher pick rate, that's super low variety in comparison. Last season was bad too. I'm not saying last season to this season. I'm not referring.
This season, though, is what we're getting. It is better this season, yes.
Yeah.
Turn 2 is stronger. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Than they were last season.
But this is why I was really happy that we're gonna have a turn 2 season now, more so than turn 1, so that people realize.
Well, actually, hold on. It's not turn 2. It's turn 0. They don't actually move. You can't be turn 2 if you don't actually take the second turn. So,
but if
turn 0.
I'm hoping that this season, this is what I was really happy about when the season came about after all the nerfs that happens, because then hopefully people will realize how shitty these units are to have in the game, and that either we'll get other units that like smash their face in, or they have to nerf those units. But I hope that whatever the result they decide to do, which is most likely buff something to Oblivion, in a good way, not Oblivion not in a bad way, Oblivion in a good way, so that so that we can have like a normal game style again.
Maybe buff a unit with Oblivion.
Something like that would be probably the dream.
Yeah. I don't get why they're still so like. I mean, I do get why they don't give that debuff out like at all, because it's more like consumer friendly to have the game be easier. Like that's just common sense. That's every game that has ever existed ever. So I get why they favor passives, but I'm still going to be frustrated about it. Like I get the business sense of it, but it's still frustrating. Like
how does it make a difference on how you like? How does it make it easier using passives? I don't understand that.
How does it make it easier to not decide when something happens, but to just let it happen at random by having your unit on the field? How does that make it easier? You're asking. Well,
I mean, you still have to draft correctly. I mean, I don't think.
Oh, you have to draft correctly. So
it's easier than.
So there's like hundreds of these. So there's like hundreds of these that you get to pick from, right? That you get to. So there's like a whole bunch of them, right? They're all good, and you gotta pick the right pieces at the right time. You mean to tell me there's not just like 7 to 8 that are really, really strong and being used an awful lot? Is that what we're saying?
It has no business being there.
I mean, when you're right, if that's what you're saying. Like,
I mean, what do you mean? You're asking if there's 7 or 8 passes that are OP and they're being picked all the time?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that.
So what's the drafting side of it being more difficult than having to draft correctly? You got like 7 or 8 things to choose from. You got like a 65% chance to pick the right thing if you have the blindfold on.
You shouldn't be winning on just randomly picking passive units.
But that's literally exactly what's happening in a lot of matches.
Yeah, I mean, I see one guy drafting freaking like Diana Douglas Riley draft. He just one-tricking that, and somehow he's like top 100. I'm like,
what do you mean somehow? Pinky in charge, literally just to prove a point, first picked Antares and were ranks 1 and 4 for like a month. It's not.
That's pretty
It's
funny.
not random. Like the units are super strong, and they just
be
have
fair,
passes, and you just sit there and you
Pinky and
go,
Charge,
when he
they're
moves,
both
then I'll make my decision to attack, and it's like it's just so dumb.
they're both good drafters, and they both have really high quality runes as well. So
Right,
that,
but they were proving the point that didn't matter. That was the point of the first picking the Antares, is that the thinking of the drafting and the picking the right counter pick didn't actually matter. That was the premise of that. I don't need to see you pick Antares weak things before I slam the counter pick. I can just pick it first, and it's strong enough that now you have to react to it.
Yeah.
It was buffed as a counter pick, but I'm going to throw it first so that you have to react to it. And I'm still going to win and be literally rank 1 in the world.
Yeah, but I mean, let's not take away credit. I mean, if they're rank 1 in the world, right, and they're first picking Antares, they're obviously adapting their draft, right, and they're gimping themselves by first picking Antares. Like, let's be honest.
That is true. I give that to Spires on that for sure.
Like if you think
Christ.
any random, if you think I can draft Antares and
do I think you can? Probably not, but they could, and they did it.
Well, sure, they both have good. I mean, Pink Red has Tiana length, and Charge has like a good Nephthys Tiana comp. Like I'm sure
they shelved and just used Antares instead.
I mean,
he wasn't running on. Just spoiler alert, guys, for anyone listening. He wasn't running Nephthys Tiana with the Antares. It was Antares into Malinana. Not, just to be clear, it was not Antares and then, okay, now I throw my 4-unit comp down. It was Antares, Malinana, Leo Douglas. Antares, Malinana, Diana, whatever. Like Leica. Like they were using the dumbest shit. It was literally just passive stack, no immunity because there's no Oblivion to worry about, no cleanse because there's no Oblivion to worry about, and just win with 5 passives. That was the draft.
I hear you, but like when you tell me it's Charge and Pinkroid, like it's
not Joe Schmo, but it's still ridiculous that they are beating the other best players in the world. They're not fighting C3 players. They're fighting the other top 10 players in the world and using 5 passives, no cleanse, no immunity, nothing to worry about, and beating them at a ridiculous win rate. Like, that shouldn't be possible. It just shouldn't. I don't care who it is that's doing it. It should be physically impossible to just slam 5 passives and watch your team beat the opponent. You don't even have to play. You just watch it beat your opponent. That's ridiculous. To defend that is like the most aggravating thing in the world.
I'm not saying that they're the best design units in the game. I'm just saying that I don't think passive units should be worse. I don't think passive units should be worse than speed. Like, you shouldn't be better off running a speed comp versus passive comp because you don't have the same time in passive unit.
Yes, you should.
Yeah, that's right. That's where I disagree.
I'm going to tell you exactly why. Have you ever played a turn-based game, any other game in the world, take your pick, where there wasn't an advantage in a turn-based? You can tell me a board game where there isn't an advantage to moving first. It is inherently an advantage in any form of turn-based game to move first. That is why, for years, people farm giants. People re-up runes. Looking for what? Are they looking for quad resistance? No, they're not. They're looking for quad speed. What do we all freak out about when a re-up hits and someone gets a quad? Is it because it's HP? Is it because it's HP percent? No, it's because it's speed. Why? Because in a turn-based game, there is an inherent advantage to moving before your opponent does. That's how it works. That's how the game is set up. That's how it always works. That's how every turn-based game ever. It's just a general understanding of turn-based games.
That's why units have passives, because you have an advantage by moving first.
Right. And now that the Moors of the world are 40 whatever percent win rates, and the the Chung Pungs are like 49, whatever the hell they're at right now, and the Molly is at like 52, 53. That's when it starts to get ridiculous. The advantage is shifted, but you've got players who have spent literally 9 years chasing a specific thing to give them a specific advantage that is pretty much just understood to exist, and now it's gone because of patches.
I mean, I agree with you when you like, yeah, turn one's not as good in this meta, but like to me, I'm just seeing it as like it's a meta, like, you know, it's a phase of RTA. Like sometimes speed comps are good, sometimes they're not, and right now they're not. Like that's why you see El Mimo on rank 2, rank 3. He's been playing turn 2 comp for years, and now he's thriving because this is what he plays. This is his game. So I mean, I don't know. I just look at it as like you just play whatever the meta is. Like that's how. I mean, I played all kinds of like card games, etc., and I've just played what the meta is.
What card game did you play?
That says it all.
I mean, yeah, I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh when I was a kid.
Yeah, so Yu-Gi-Oh! Remember Yu-Gi-Oh! Turn 1 was so good, they nerfed the fact that you can't have your first turn draw anymore.
Yeah, I haven't played it in a while, but I used to. Yeah, it's same thing in that game. I used to just play the most meta deck at the time and go from there. I mean,
yeah,
that's the way I see it. If you want to stay competitive, you have to just adapt and play whatever works.
But to me, that's not your competitiveness. That's your laziness. Like taking the path of least resistance to me is not competitiveness. I mean, you can disagree with that. Just philosophically, I don't think taking the path of least resistance is your competitive side. I think that's a cop-out.
I mean, in order to be competitive, you have to be a little bit creative as well. Like you literally, I know you said Pink Red and whatever did this, but you literally cannot climb to top 10, top 20, top 100, whatever. If you're anybody, just first picking Antares and passive units. Like I think you're like over exaggerating.
Well,
like I agree with you that passives are good right now, and they're a little bit too good. And
I'm not saying you can climb. I don't think you should be able to win at your current rank. I don't care if you're a Fighter 3 player. You should not be able to win within your rank just slamming 5 passives with nothing to worry about and just letting the activation rates win the game. That's ridiculous. I don't care if you're Fighter 3, Fighter 1, Challenger 3. You should not be able to win within your rank by just having passives activating randomly with no inputs required by you. You can't even come up with a game plan. You can't even say when you're going to kill that thing on the other side because you don't know. You don't know when your Antares is going to cut. Maybe it'll be on the 7th turn. Maybe it'll be on the 11th turn. Maybe you'll kill that thing on the 14th turn. You have no idea, and neither does your opponent. And this is a strategy game. That's ridiculous.
I 100% agree with that. Like you shouldn't be able to just draft 5 random units that have passives that when you game like the game like that is.
Yeah.
I can agree with that.
I
don't think that's what's happening. That's the difference. I don't think that's what's happening.
Well, it's because most people don't want to play that way. Like, but it is proven that you could if you wanted to, because they did it. And they did it at the highest rank, but the same way a C3 player could have done the same thing relative to his opponents, he could do that same thing. It's proven to literally work at literally any rank. It's just, I just don't think most people don't want to do that, which is good, I guess, but it's still ridiculous that it even exists, where it's like,
I think most people don't want to climb an RTA.
What? I think so. Nobody wants to climb?
No, they don't want, because I don't think that comp will climb you to your next best rank, but I think you can win within your rank just doing that. And most people don't want to play the game of just 5 passives, maybe my Antares, because it's a frustrating playstyle to use, not just fight. It's frustrating to use.
It's not that enjoyable, to be honest. But the point where I disagree with you is just that I don't think you can climb with it. Like I don't realistically think you can take in and just randomly, not randomly even with a little bit of thought, draft passive units and actually climb well.
I mean, I get what you're saying by climb.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying by climb within the context of specifically Guardian 3, where it's basically within Guardian 3, it's 300 players trying to increase their points.
In any rank, I don't think you can climb like that in any rank. But
what do you mean by climb? Are you saying?
I'm just saying like
climbing in G3 is different than C3. Like, because climbing to C3 is getting to G1, which I don't think you could do that either, right? But climbing to G3 is consistently winning against other G3s. It's two different dynamics. Like C3 climbing is getting out of C3 and into G1 and beating G1s. I don't think you could do that if that was your comp. But climbing within G3 is a totally different thing. To climb in G3, you have to consistently beat your peers, and your peers don't change. So it's not the same thing. Like C3 will go up to G1 and hit a new quality of player, and then that's going to stop working. And I agree, you can't climb doing that. Like, you're probably going to get smacked right back down to C3 and be stuck in C3. So yeah, in essence, you're not climbing. But
so what's the problem then?
What do you mean?
Just, I don't know. Who cares? Let people do that and not climb.
The problem is the game design that allows for that to win at any rank.
Yeah, it's the frustrating factor, like, of these units that can be slapped in, just like, because it's literally an admission of defeat. Is when you draft the only units I can think of is Antares and Douglas, really, that like
and
it's a true admission of defeat already
Verd.
at the draft when you and who was it? Sorry,
Verd.
And Verd anyway, yeah.
Right? Like, yeah, let's just coin flip. Well, this didn't go as planned. Let's just coin flip.
We're throwing Verd in that fucking discussion. We were like discussing, or no, now I'm fucking going back that lane. Like, I'm in draft, right? I'm taking mid-range units versus a mid-range, and this guy's going turn 1. And I stick with mid-range units. I haven't taken anything that's like crazy pivotal or nothing, right? But you still decide to throw down a dice roll unit in the draft. That's like you're admitting defeat just because you know me. I don't know if it's because you know my name. You know I have a unit.
Sure. And I get it, and you can totally win like that. But what I'm saying is, like, you still are gonna lose most of those games that you do that. Like, if you're to the point where you're throwing
but that's bullshit, because the win rates don't reflect that. You are not going to lose most of the games you do that. That's bullshit.
You should, theoretically you should,
but you don't, and the win rates literally don't reflect that. Douglas does not lose most of the games he's picked.
Oh, Douglas is
not true.
Douglas is a specific counter pick. But
okay,
if you just
or Leo.
throw down, like, if you just randomly throw down a Leo and Taurus in a draft, like, I mean,
their win rates are pretty decent. You're not going to lose most of the games you pick them. You might lose a little bit more than you win, maybe, depending on the day, how Antares wants to perform. But they do not lose most of the games that they're picked. That's not true.
Well, you can't just take like their win rate at face value. Like, people do pick them in situations where they make sense, and most units are going to be around 50% win rate. That's the normal win rate. That means they win half, they lose half. Like there's a very big sample size there, so they should be around 50%. And I don't think that because of it's 50% does not mean that they win 50% of the time, that they're just randomly slapped in because they lost the draft.
Yeah,
I think they maybe win 30% of the time when they lose the draft, which is fine. This game's a little bit RNG.
I mean, you're just guessing in that regard, but
yeah, totally guessing.
I mean, but either way, I don't think that unit should win, even in the situations where he's a good pick 50% of the time, just based on a passive that randomly activates. Because there's also been tests that have done recently. I know Shrumia did a massive sample size with Antares, because all these people, we've all just assumed they don't tell us the amount, the rate at which Antares increases, and it looks like it's actually 1% per turn taken that his rate to cut goes up. 1%. And you want me to believe that this fucking unit is like a counter to these teams that take a good amount of turns? It's 15 going up by 1. It's just ridiculous, man. But he does it. He gets the job done.
Mind you, I don't fight a lot of Antares ever. I don't fight Verd anymore.
I don't really either because I avoid the units that are weak to that shit. But I hate that I literally have to do that, or else I just gotta give people wins who want to pick a fucking passive that counters me. So it's like.
But we're still gonna get bashed on in the comments here for even.
Oh, of course, dude. The amount of bitch-made people that play this game that think that like, well, I should have a chance to beat anybody. Like no. I mean, like if I join the NBA,
definitely not true.
If I join the NBA, they should all play in wheelchairs so that I have a chance to compete. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like,
what was that, Spires?
No, I know. I was saying, yeah, you definitely no one should have the chance to beat anyone innately, like just for picking certain units. And you know,
that's
I'm
the
gonna say,
concept of those passives.
I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit here because I know Zig is always like against passives, and I'm not even much of a passive player myself. I was testing out Manon for like a week, and I had a little bit of fun with that. But honestly, I'm like Firas out of my comp today. I'm not really playing that much passives anyway.
No, not at all.
Yeah, but like I just feel like there are players that have success with it, and they have success with it. I don't want to take away from those players. Like I say El Mimo just because he's like the one I can think of, but I don't want to take away from players who are using the passives correctly and they're actually using them with thought. And the consistency behind the passes is there when they're drafted right. That's kind of just where my argument ends. Because I agree with the design and stuff is not.
Yeah, that's my problem is solely with the game design behind those units. Like, they're there. Pick them, people. Like, I don't care. Like, if I take 5 win units, pick your fucking Douglas. Like, it's there. It exists. Do it. Like, I'm not mad at people for doing it. I'm mad at the game design behind it.
This is the worst part. If you guys never see Ziggy on ladder and you see him, he'll draft a Douglas. He's a piece of shit.
Of course. It's there. Look it. He's right here. He's in the box. He's got the fucking stacked runes too. He's there. Like, of course. If they're
one thing
there,
I do want to say
pick
about
the fucking unit. But I don't like Douglas the game design.
Yeah, sure. But that's the way that Contest has decided that you can nerf certain units, or not nerf, but like have different metas and have different play styles. Because I mean, if some of these units didn't exist, it would just be more Chun Pong, whatever. It would just be one
but
thing.
That's why I just want those to get nerfed.
That would be fine if they could have a balance like that.
Like, I just don't get it. But like, yeah.
But there's so many units though. Like, they would have to nerf so many units instead of because look at this past balance patch. They buffed a few units that were turn 2 units, and it made a big difference in terms of like how many people can play turn 1. Because now you need you kind of need specific stuff to play turn 1 at a high level. Whereas if you look at all the units you'd have to nerf, you'd have to nerf so many units turn 1 in order to make that same impact. Because look at how many units Douglas counters, or Juno counters, or you'd have to nerf Wind Robo, Chung Pong, Charlotte. You'd have to nerf literally half of the win units.
Because they keep digging themselves this hole.
Which is why they do it the way they do.
It's so fucking annoying because it's
I don't like fighting against somebody who puts my entire bar to 0.
No one does. It's bullshit.
Hathor, if let's say they nerfed Charlotte, Chung Pong, Robo, Cigar, and funny, all these are wind units naturally.
I mean that's just how Contours does it though.
That's why Douglas is insane. If there was a water Douglas, it wouldn't be used half as much.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't be. It would actually probably still see some success actually if I had the same design, because Douglas still demolishes my Molong Wusa. I've seen it happen to Ziggy, I've seen it happen to me. Who was the other guy? There was someone else that their Douglas beat a Molong Wusa, which is an absurd.
It was Say Shizo, I think. He was playing a clip, where it'd be like Lima Wusa Molong or something.
Winning that match, right? But you can, and I can still see that being it doesn't matter the color of Douglas. Actually, I don't think it matters at all. It's more effective that he's fire. Yes, if he was any other color, I would still lose to it because I don't have plus 2,000 attack units on my team that I consistently pick.
But even if you can, even if you had plus 2,000 attack, it's like a catch-22 because okay, so now you're gonna glance him less, but when you glance him, because you have 2,000 attack, you're super fucking squishy. So now he claps you back and does 70% of your health. Yeah, so now he just you glance him half as often, but he kills you twice as fast. So it's no different. It's like
it really is. Oh. That's why I just have to always ban it or take shields. But.
Yeah, I just stay away from any unit that would potentially entice a Douglas. I just get him out of my box. I don't want to use them. Like
one thing I'll say like about Douglas is I agree with you guys, and the game design is not the greatest, and I don't think it's the most fun unit to use either. But it's nice to have counter picks that don't take runes from like your main team. I feel like that's how it should be. I feel like counter picks like Diana, Douglas, all like those kind of stuff. You should be able to have a deep box because the more depth that you actually have in your box, I feel like the more complicated RTA gets, which is good. So I think that it's nice to have counter picks that don't take your best violence set or don't need.
Yeah, I just don't think they should be this strong. I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it existing in a vacuum, but it shouldn't be this strong.
Like units like Water Holly, for example, she takes a very unique rune set, right? Who else uses this rune set? Fucking nobody.
Nobody, yeah.
Right?
100%.
And honestly, I'm at a point now, like, I don't even think they should nerf her or anything. Like, she's kind of irrelevant to me. Even though I take AoE triple hit units between Bison, Pandas, I can't remember, there's another one I use, I can't think of right now. Even though I take those units into her, I expect her to parry and whatever. It does. Sometimes it's a little more than usual. It doesn't matter. Units like Abellio, I love. He takes a certain units.
Oh my god, I fucking hate Abellio.
You hate Abellio, but you know what he does. You can't hate.
I know. I just hate that he's uncounterable. That's the annoying part.
I like Abellio's design actually.
Yeah, but I like him. He's strong, but he's not turn 0 entire. He's like turn 0.5.
Okay, yeah.
The design is one thing. I just hate that the passives have no cooldowns on some of those units. Because like something like that, like could you imagine if Triana just didn't have a cooldown and you just had to multi-hit things to kill them? Like the fact that he can just go, like full cleanse, bar, full cleanse, bar, full cleanse, bar. And it's like, hello, like shouldn't you have to take some real turns at some point before you can keep doing this? It's like, what the fuck is going on?
But I would still rather deal with like it's fine though. To me,
he's way more manageable than other units.
Yeah, I would think Abellio. Yeah, I think Abellio is like a really good example of how passive units should be. Like if you look at his pick rate and everything, like he has healthy pick rate, healthy ban rate, all that kind of stuff. Like statistics.
I wish I had one still.
I would love to see what Abellio turns into because he got the buff at the same time as Oliver. So I would love to see what an Abellio looks like in a non 50% pick rate Oliver meta because we haven't seen it. He got the buff. He was either after or at the same time as Oliver, where he got the full cleanse buff. So the entire time that he's had his ridiculous skill, Oliver has been dominating the entire game. So I'm curious to see if Oliver ever gets like a true nerf, what happens with Abellio. If he's just like the king bruiser that you just kind of slam.
If he does get a true nerf, we'll see the same thing with Wusa and Shizuka.
Yeah, Shizuka, yeah. It's going to be rough.
Shizuka's still good as long as you're picking high impact skills with her.
Yeah.
I'm actually really surprised. I was almost. I remember we were saying they should make Shizuka's a S3, a 4-turn cooldown. Fuck no, leave it at 5. That thing is scary. Just leave it as is. She's still good.
I'm okay with Shizuka now, though. Like she's super strong now. But even if it was a 4-turn cooldown, I think I'd still be okay with her. Like. Because I know what's going to happen. Like, I know if I get a reset on her, I know for how long she is reset. Whereas before, it was like, okay, well, if she procs, then that's an S2 onto herself, and then that's basically equivalent to another proc. And so it's like, that's when it got, like, sketchy. It's like, you really couldn't calculate what was going to happen when you fought a Shizuka, but now you can. You get the reset on her, you know, I've got 4 turns of downtime, I'm good. Like, I'm good for now.
She lost her like insane solo potential. Where like
she was like beating Mashas.
like Masha Nana with 2 stacks. Like,
yeah. So even if they still did that Shizuka thing, they don't need to. She's proven she's good enough without it. But even if they did that, where they gave it 1 turn less on the cooldown, I'd be fine with it.
So yeah, just so people watching, we're not shitting on turn 2. Like there's we've said this before, but in case you're a new viewer, you haven't seen this before or seen us before. There's a lot of good turn 2 units who have a value that are not like a dice roll, right? Even like I'm reminded of Masha. I haven't seen Masha in a while. She barely got a nerf on the last patch, but we barely see her. But like Masha as a counter to like a triple win draft seems what's the word I'm looking for? Goddamn, I'm swallowing my words here. Respectable, I guess, in terms of like just throwing down a Douglas, because then you can debate with yourself whether or not you want to ban the Masha and like suffer the consequences of a unit that always puts immunity on herself on top of the glance.
Like it's still going to be a super rough game, but you could leave it and potentially fight it. Like
it's based on runes at this point more so than RNG. This is the kind of turn 2 units we want to see. This is the kind of turn 2 units I want to use.
Yeah.
This is why I'm doing really good in this season, even though I don't use Antares, I don't use Douglas.
Yeah, I'm cool with anything but RNG. I don't care if they get even if it's still passives and it's just the strongest units in the fucking universe. Like I'm cool with it if I am given the tools to maybe counter it and it's not RNG. Like
you cool with Ragdoll?
I hate. Well, he's RNG though. He's RNG because you can physically never get rid of your crit rate. If you could, like every unit
fair enough.
Every single unit I use is 15, and I still have to ban Ragdoll every time because what if?
Like, I just wanted to get Zig fired up.
I hate Ragdoll.
My whole RTA career, like all my units, my entire box, for the most part, is built around not having to ever ban Ragdoll in my lifetime. Ever since I started RTA, I've been doing. But
it doesn't work like that. You still have to ban him.
No. I still lose to him because of the 15%. He's pretty much, or no, I should say Water Holly's pretty much become the free-to-play Ragdoll with the 15% chance to just randomly piss you off.
Yep.
That's the same thing with Ragdolls. If I crit, all of a sudden they have free bar. And my whole box is designed to not have to worry about banning Ragdoll 99% of the time. Yet he still gets that chance to piss me off. That's why I hate first-pick Ragdoll players. They're like, on paper, I'll never lose to a Ragdoll. Paper, I should never lose to it. But that chance is still there just because I can't go to 0 crit. Right?
Dude, look at this Clara, okay? And so I've been using a lot of Clara this season, okay?
I should say the weekly Swift Rune Flex.
But here's the thing, okay? Clara's real counter should be Water Ryu, right? Like, he's just really good in Terror. You're going to activate him. The likelihood of strip stunning him is super low. Like, that's like your real counter. Every single time I fight more Ragdoll, I have to just still ban the Ragdoll. Even though I have 15 crit rate, I have to fight the thing that's like an actual legit counter to me in the more, just so that I don't have to deal with the RNG aspect of the Ragdoll. It's fuck.
I mean, those are, but the thing is also Clara does multi-hit, so.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's not really RNG, like you're gonna crit.
I know I'm gonna crit too, but I still like. That's why I have to ban it because I know something's going to get crit, but it's also like my runes I have literal exact 15 crit rate. My runes have 0, but I have to ban a unit that reacts to crits because the game says so, because I have to have 15 crit rate and the game says so. It's like, fuck. I hate it. I hate Ragdoll. Ragdoll and Ongyuki are just dominating this season and it's ridiculous.
Is Ragdoll doing that well?
Huh?
Ragdoll's actually doing that well right now?
I feel like kidding me? He's like a 30-something% pick rate.
No, I know pick rate wise.
Well, his win rate's always been godly. That's never changed.
Yeah, I mean, Ragdoll's pretty strong right now.
He just levitates over the rest of the field.
I know we were talking about it a lot. I didn't think he had a high enough win rate, though. I thought he was still just...
I think Ongyuki is better than him right now, but far less owned, obviously, than Ragdoll.
He's the toughest unit to fight is Ongyuki.
Yeah, that's been my toughest struggle too.
Yeah.
On
With
on
no good
Yuki.
Oblivion units, he has no true counter. I mean, like, what's the actual definitive counter to Ong Yuki? Like,
Your ISIS
I don't
vital
know,
process.
sniping it. I don't know. Like,
I try. You could try to snipe it, but he's
that's like your only op. That's the only legitimate counter to him, because any form of CC, like, even if you push it back, you're probably using either despair units to do it, or like, you can't just bring pushback. Something has to hard CC somewhere in your comp, and now all of a sudden you have a losing condition versus that thing.
Last season, I remember fighting it, and it didn't seem like as much of a problem because I was using a lot of like Oliver and Masha, and like those two units along with like any stripper kind of got rid of it. But this season, without the like using those two units as much, I've noticed it's been much harder because.
Yep.
And if you try to bruiser it, like he procs one time.
Oh my god.
so
Dude,
You're
he'll take down a 60k HP unit with one proc. It's like, what the fuck, man?
Spires, you've seen my team, right? Like I'm running Bison,
Yeah.
Carnal Cigar, Tian Lang, Adder. These are all high HP minimum. My lowest HP unit with HP lead is sitting at maybe 45k minimum. So like I'm upwards of 60k with some of my units after leads and blah blah blah. And he still fucking wipes me out.
Yeah. And like, provokes are actually really good against him until he procs after it and just eliminates the unit that provoked him.
Yeah, we want to talk about a busted unit. Like that unit is the biggest problem, I think.
Thank God a shitload of people don't own him. I mean, there's a good amount of him, but thank God he's not like owned at Ragdoll's level. Otherwise, then it's like, what do you even do? He would break the game if he was owned by that many people.
Yeah, wait for a year from now when people start investing in the on UG accounts.
Yep, exactly. But all right, we can call it there. We already went a little bit longer than what we planned, so
yeah, no, sounds good.
Yep. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. And
good on you taking all that verbal assault.
someone had to take it.
Well, I mean, I had to get on here and just defend some of the turn 2 players, man.
Thank you, Spires. I feel like I was even getting attacked by Ziggy for a good portion there.
You're still all a bunch of bitches. All right. All right. Peace out.
Anyway, good night.
Later, guys.